Designs new release. This time it is Halloween themed, and I am showing you the cute packaging that your order will come in with the logo sticker. First off, I am showing you the Halloween trick-or-treaters stamp and die set. I love these little kiddos in their costumes and the accompanying die. Next up are the Halloween balloons, and I flip over the package so that you can see what each one will look like when you die cut it. Next are the candles, and I love the little Frankenstein and the mummy. And finally, I have the Halloween mason jars, and I cannot wait to create with these. But today's card is going to be the Halloween balloons. When I start out die cutting, I lay out all the pieces onto the different colored cardstocks, and then I run them all through my platinum die machine. You could use whatever die machine that you have, and then I sort them out into just a little bowl off camera. With the orange balloon, this is what I do with all of my die cuts for this, is I lay out the glue first. I just dot that on to where the pieces go, and then using a crafter's wand, I place the pieces. I find that with these little intricate pieces, that using a jewel picker of some sort is easier. Now, if you wanted to, you could obviously apply the glue to the back of the face pieces and then put them down, but for me, this is what made sense today anyway. So I think that this is really cute. I do decide to put all the streamers on last, just so that way I could figure out what my layout was going to be. I now bring out the white ghost. I think you could use any color for this ghost, but I went with traditional white ghost. If you wanted to, you could add some shading with a marker or with any type of ink, but I just kept it simple. Again, what I like about this die set is that if you're a beginning card maker, you have everything you need to make one card, because you've got a sentiment in there, you've got the ghost, the balloon elements, so you don't need to add all the things, and I love that Pixi Dust Designs thought of that. Next up is the bat, and I started out by adding the eyes, and again I applied the glue to the purple balloon and then the eyes. I did fail to die cut out the white part of the eyes, but I never really start over on any project. I just figure out how to make it work, so you're going to see that here in a few minutes. I also dot on the glue to apply the mouth. Now, included in the die set was another set of wings. So I brought out Villainous Potion Distress ink and applied some inking to the wings just to give it dimension. And you'll see that there are like these scored areas where the bat wings are. And by applying the ink, it makes that pop, and it gives our, two-dimensional object to make it like it's three-dimensional. So that's just something that's important to me. Now, if you want it to be even more popped up, you could use like a glue dot or some foam tape, but I just opted to go down with the Barely Art glue again. And that seems to work for me. Of course, when you're creating, you do what makes you happy, and I always say have fun with what you're creating and make it your own. You don't have to do what I do. Now, I did mention that I forgot to do the whites of the eyes, which would have just entailed doing a white cardstock instead of the black. So I brought out a white gel pen. Now, the pupil of the eye is embossed in that, so I was able just to trace out around that circle where the pupil is to create the white part of the eye. Now, I do go very slow with this because I want good coverage with a gel pen. The key thing with a gel pen, because I know people struggle with gel pens, if you go down with really hard pressure, they're going to skip or maybe not roll out the ink. If you're very light-handed and barely touch the paper, you're going to get really good coverage. And I also have learned that different humidities and different climates, some pens work better than others. I I probably have about 20 different white gel pens, but again, you need to figure out what works for you. But I think that using the gel pen fixed my mistake. It almost gave him a 3D look. So I decided to create a background. I'm just using smooth cardstock and distress oxides in the color of tumbled glass and peacock feathers. Using a blending brush, I am first just putting down what I call a dirty blend. That means I'm just trying to get the paper slightly saturated so that my inks blend better with distress oxide inks, or really any ink that you put down. The first time you go over it, it never seems to be a seamless blend. So I find that if you go over it at least 2 times, maybe 3, you'll get better coverage. You'll notice that I didn't change my blending brush. With these colors being so close to one another, I didn't feel like I was going to contaminate my ink pads. I did speed this up 2 times just so that I wouldn't take up all of your time. But I wanted you to see how going back over this ink, like I said twice, really gives a nice smooth blend. Next, I come in with my distress sprayer, and I only squeeze that like halfway, and that's how I get those really big droplets. Now, if you wanted a fine mist, you would just squeeze it all the way. I'll let that set for a couple seconds, and then using a dry towel, I just mop that up, and then that's where you'll see the oxidation of the ink causing all the different like nuggets of texture. I do come in with a heated tool to set the ink. That way I'm not getting a whole lot of warping with my paper. And I do suggest not only drying it from the front, but from the back. That way you really just lock that color in and you prevent further warping of your paper. You can use a traditional heat gun like you use for embossing, but that is a much more condensed stream of hot air, so it doesn't seem to dry as quickly. So that's why I use the heated tool. I then come in with my Barely Art glue, and I apply that liberally, and I adhere that directly onto an A2 side fold card base. Now you could pop that up if you wanted or give it a border. I am going to use the frame. It's a Spellbinders fluted rectangle die set. I like frames on my cards. That's kind of traditionally what I do because it kind of sets off my design. Now you'll see that I am using an ink smushing tool that you would use like on a Misty and a scrap piece of paper, and by applying that pressure you are getting a better adhesion with your glue, and you're taking out any additional warping. Now you're going to see that I am applying the strings or streamers of the balloons, and by doing that I'm just putting down some Barely Art glue, just a dot, and letting those dry naturally. You're going to see later on I do rip one of the tails off because I wanted a little bit different layout, but again, you can't see it, and I always say just keep on going with your design. Anytime there's a mistake or something, it's just a chance for embellishment. It rarely ever sees the garbage can in my craft room. So next I am putting down a nice bead of glue along my rectangle die, and I am going to center that onto my card panel. I know some people like their stuff off-centered. I like mine centered, but you will see that I will place my balloons so that they overhang the frame, and by doing that you're keeping the eye moving and giving the illusion that there's something going on outside of the frame of view. Right now I'm just kind of getting an idea for my layout. I tend to fidget with things a little bit longer than I should, but I think you need to see that process just so that you don't think that, what you see on video takes 10 minutes, and sometimes all the fidgeting we do can add a few more minutes to it, and I want it to be realistic. And now that I kind of have an idea what my layout's going to be, I then use some foam squares to pop up my balloons. I like a lot of dimension So you'll never see a card from me that's 100% flat. So I just apply that to the base of the balloons. I leave the tails free flowing so that I can move them how I want. And I do offset that bat a little bit higher so he's kind of sealing the show here. And you'll see that I did place that pumpkin going off the frame of the card, just like I said, to keep the eye moving. And then this is where the ghost, I wasn't really sure what to do with the ghost, and I ripped the tail of the balloon off. I mean, you've got to edit your stuff the way you see fit so you can see how the positioning of the string just wasn't cutting it. So here I just apply a bead of glue to the back of the streamer, and I glue that directly onto the card base instead of to the ghost. Then I apply the ribbon, and I put a little black dot in there just to give it a different look, and then I add the spooktacular. Then for my stash I add some purple gems, and I did not share the entire process of that just because it gets a little bit redundant. So I want to say thank you for sticking it out with me, and please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, friends, keep crafting. Bye-bye.